Hurricane, spit and tornado growl over London today.
I would describe Dr. Dee as, in a way, the original Renaissance man, because he brought together so many different things. But he brought mathematics to this country, he brought the navigational sciences to this country, but he also brought new ideas about the spirit world to this country. He helped define the Elizabethan age. He was at the centre of the Elizabethan court, and he was a figure that came to represent many of the things that the Elizabethan, this momentous era, the Elizabethan age, represented. John Dee was born in 1527, absolutely right in the middle, you could say, of momentous history. He was the son of a servant in King Henry VIII's household and lived in one of the palaces, probably Greenwich Palace. He was at what you could say the epicenter of the Reformation then, because this was the time when Henry VIII started, when he divorced his first wife, Catherine, and then married Anne Boleyn, when there was this split with the Church of Rome, with the Catholic Church, as we now call it, and just completely changed the nature of English politics. When this was going on, Dee was right in the middle of it. So it was when he was 5 years old, for example, 6 years old, that's when the split with Rome came. And he would have witnessed it sort of firsthand. And I think that was one of the things that really shaped his life, because he knew, he would sort of experienced personally this period when things were in turmoil, basically. But he then went on to school and to university, to Cambridge University, where he studied what then would have been the liberal arts. So Dr. Dee became this kind of key figure in Queen Elizabeth's regime. But then it all sort of fell apart for reasons that remain relatively obscure. Dee set up house during her reign in what he described as a cottage in Mortlake, which is here, just about where that willow tree is down on the riverbank. Nothing remains of this extraordinary building that he created, because it wasn't a cottage at all. He added all sorts of outhouses and extra buildings and extensions, which contained not only his great library, which was the biggest library in the country at the time, it rivaled the library of the King of France, but all these laboratories where he did alchemical experiments and things like that, and also what became known as his, what he called his internal private or secret library, where he conducted these extraordinary seances, these attempts to make contact with the spirit world. Well, one of his great ideas, one of his most ambitious ideas by far, and one in fact that got him into quite a lot of political hot water, was this idea of setting up a kind of a power base, setting up England and Wales as a counterbalance to the great Catholic empires of mainland Europe. He came up with this idea that England should actually challenge that, and it should challenge it by building an empire of its own. He invented the term, the British Empire. He thought this could be something that would act as a counterbalance, a Protestant empire as a counterbalance to the great European empires.
Raining down from above, distant is love, distinct in the kingdom of...
In the 1580s, John Dee became more and more interested in this idea of trying to set up a kind of spiritual communication. And he hired an agent to try and find scryers, as they were called, mediums, as we would now call them. And this agent that he had hired arrived on his doorstep in Mortlake, just over there somewhere, with this mysterious figure who introduced himself as Talbot, who turned out to be actually a man called Edward Kelly, and he came to dominate Dee's life thereafter. This is 1583, and for the next few years Dee was absolutely wedded to the idea that this Kelly character could set up the spiritual communication that Dee wanted, and Kelly came out with these extraordinary visions. He really delivered, it has to be said, but it also came bound up with Dee's growing difficulties here in London, in the Elizabethan court. There started to be problems, there started to be suspicions about what Dee was up to. It ultimately led to Kelly and Dee leaving the country, escaping off into the continent. Kelly starting to actually rather insidiously shape Dee's personal life. It was a sort of turning point in his life, and it was downhill from then. I think the reason why Dr. Dee still holds some kind of fascination and importance is because he occupies this area, or he's trying to navigate between these two sort of polarized worlds of spiritualism, if you like, on the one hand, and science on the other, between matters of the heart and matters of the head, between you know, these polarities that kind of define the age that we live in. And I mean, I can see why possibly this drew Damon into this, because he is somebody who likes to sort of wander around between different genres or different ideas or different kinds of music. He was absolutely at the centre of turning what was then really a backwater of Europe into an intellectual centre, and part of what came to be known as the English Renaissance we associate with figures like Christopher Marlowe and William Shakespeare, the great flowering of England, if you like, that happened in Elizabethan, in the Elizabethan age. Dee was absolutely at the heart of that Renaissance.